think Big Meech told on somebody to get out, snitched, did anything extra?
No. Let me tell you why. Big Meech's paperwork is public records. There is no proof that Big Meech said, hey, bust him. So Big Meech, bro, I ain't gonna lie, that man got to that compound and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get BMF, ENT on the left side of their neck, man.
But I'm in here with a 27-year sentence based on Demetrius Flannery, as you all know as Big Meech, and Tammy Cowens, known in the paperwork as CS1.
Right.
Confidential source 1. So what Big Meech did was called a third-party cooperation.
Tammy Cohen is a government informant. So they told me, he says, you know what this is about? And I said, no. He said, well, you threatened a government informant.
Therefore, Terran gangster Williams, who is imprisoned with Big Meech, is coming forward and shutting down 50 Cent's claims that Meech snitched on Gangsta. He is also speaking out about how Meech ran the entire prison and had the respect of every inmate. This is a game changer because people are now doubting 50's entire story about Meech being a rat. Was Meech actually working with the feds? Or is 50 just smearing his name because he is upset about Meech's relationship with Rick Ross? Let's examine the details of what the mobster disclosed concerning Meech's incarceration.
You know, it's selective politics and it's selective who they gonna call a rat or who they not gonna call a rat in this industry. So we've been saying that since I've been home.
Terrence Gangster, a street figure in New Orleans, was interviewed. Williams has made a comeback, revealing how Big Meech was responsible for jail operations. Gangsta claimed that Meech had all the men after him, as if he were a leader, and that Meech was the kind of man who could attain the keys to any yard he landed on. In other words, he had that much power without even trying.
That compound, and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get BMF, ENT on the left side of their neck, man. It was tattooed, and he made it clear. He said, listen, I'm not giving nobody no connect. I'm not hooking nobody up with nothing. I'm not doing nothing when y'all go home. So in other words, you know, people try to get with him just for, you know, the games, you know, for me, let it be known, look, I ain't got nothing, nobody. I'm in jail doing my bid, that's what it is, you know what I'm saying? So, man, bro, I literally remember 25 guys after lunch will go to that rec yard with Big Meech. They gonna take over the weight power, they gonna work out, they gonna hit the weights, do their little workout, and then after that, Big Meech whoever got the wine, he gonna bottle the wine up, whoever cooking food, he gonna bottle the food up, and he gonna sit in the cell and hang out and just talk war stories, just talk about on the streets, man. He was a very good, humble dude, man. Very.
As you are all aware, Sen has publicly accused Meech of being a federal informant through his former associate Tammy Cowens. However, when Gangsta was recently questioned about Fitt's claims, he stated that he doubts Meech Cooper at that. In addition, Gangsta implied that industry people like Fitty are hypocrites for selectively labeling someone a snitch. This is even crazier because Meech had the opportunity to escape and return to a life of millions before the feds got him, but he chose to serve his time. We'll discuss that escape opportunity a little later.
Big Meech, told on somebody to get out, snitched, did anything extra?
No. Let me tell you why. Big Meech's paperwork is public records. There is no proof that Big Meech said, hey, bust him. Now, the situation with the lady Tammy, the female that he cool with or whatever, mess with whatever, I was having an argument with somebody about this last night. Now, if we go by prison rules and standards, Big Meech didn't sit down with the agents and say, hey, my bro gonna go ahead and settle a boy up for me, so make sure y'all give me the credit. So we couldn't make a move on him because his name not in the paperwork for.
We must now examine the history of BMF's rise and fall in order to comprehend the origins of all these snitching accusations. This led to Meech being sentenced to 30 years in prison, and the most outrageous aspect is that there was a time when he had the chance to flee the country and avoid serving time, but instead he chose to stay and face the consequences. This choice not only earned him a great deal of respect, but also laid the groundwork for the drama we see today, including the Black Mafia family was established in 1985 in southwest Detroit by brothers Demetrius Big Meech Flannery and Terry Lee Flannery. In addition to the Fenny brothers' ambition, the BNF was also fueled by a direct plug to top-tier Mexican cocaine, and they swiftly rose to prominence in the game by transporting supplies through a family-run car service. These snitching rumors that fit are currently strong, but let's start at the beginning.
Money. There ain't no other crew like this in the world, and there never will be another one. Not black. It never will be, because they said that if like this is shining all together, being together, doing shit every day, then they gonna fall out over some money or somebody gonna rob, steal, and kill. I have yet to see that.
Using a gaudy entertainment empire as a front, the BNF had taken over the streets and clubs by the early 2000s. At its height, the group had 500 members and was making movements across the United States.
LA, Atlanta, Detroit, we have homes, our own homes. We don't have to go in and rent. We got our own houses, we got our own cars, we got our own hoes, we got our own clothes. You know what I'm saying? And we can't be stopped. I don't see nobody stop. I don't see none to come after us either. None. Nobody, I never do this again. There's this many.
However, in the Southwest, Big Meech didn't just become the best. He worked hard to get there, surviving territorial takeovers, turf fights, and losing people in the process. In the late 1980s, T was shot in the right eye, which left him permanently partially blind. Regarding Meech, he was shot twice. Once in the neck outside a Chinese restaurant in the 1980s, and again in 2004 outside an Atlanta club when he was concealed behind. The second shooting began following a confrontation with Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's former bodyguard, and although Meech survived with minor wounds, Wolf and another man were killed.
This particular night, and one of Meech's friends, Wolf, was there. So Wolf and Meech knew each other because he was Puffy's ex-bodyguard, and Puffy and Meech were close. Wolf sees his ex-girlfriend, but she's not with Meech, you know, she's standing on the back wall. Wolf reaches past Meech and mushes her, and Meech was like, nah, that's not going down. Whatever y'all got going on, you can handle that privately with her. But if she's standing here with me, I can't have you disrespect her like that.
That led to verbal altercation, physical altercation, which led to Wolf Jones ejected from the club. Demetrius and his bodyguard, Bull Height, were on their way to their vehicle when they encountered Wolf Jones and Riz Gertie waiting for them with guns drawn. Wolf Jones started shooting.
All hell broke loose. Gunfire was coming from everywhere.
Police aren't sure what triggered the violence, but witnesses say dozens of bullets flew near the intersection of East Paces Ferry and Bowling Way.
We all meet up at the house, and it's still not a big deal. You know, Meech is actually leaning on the counter laughing because we're drunk as hell. He's like, man, Yogi, my ass is burning. I'm like, what? He's like, man, I think I got shot in the ass. And sure enough.
But in addition to the illicit substances, empire, and street politics, BNF was all about living big. We're talking about 13 multi-million-dollar mansions spread out around the nation, a collection of exotic cars, wardrobes filled with designer clothing, and a VIP ticket to Jacob the jeweler's most expensive items.
Chartered a commercial flight for hundreds of people, and Meech paid for everybody. It was a full-on party in the sky.
I've seen the movie Soul Plane. It was like Soul Plane.
Yeah, it's good. I got the mom support 100%. Oh, Jay, what's wrong with that?
Meech had everything set up. Everything was set up for us to party.
Big dog. What's up, baby? Hey, just chilling like a villain in Mexico.
Presently, although Meech consistently advocated for brotherhood as the foundation of BMF, family ties began to deteriorate during the height of their rule. Members remember how even the tiniest arguments would escalate into furious public outbursts, and how his sibling rivalry with Southwest T developed into a power struggle. T was accused of stealing from the organization by me, and neither brother was prepared to take a backseat.
Out of each key.
He would take 100 bricks and make an extra 20 bricks out of it. He got to break everything down, repress it, put it back together. I never done that. He done went about to work with my money and his money, and then he repressing my bricks.
Meech wasn't feeling that, and I wasn't feeling it. So, Meech told me and Wayne, they're not gonna keep stealing from us, giving us this bad dope. Y'all go deal straight.
At the height of BMF's reign, Meech and T decided to divide the operation. T moved to Los Angeles to maintain relations with the Mexican connection, while Meech took over Atlanta, keeping the streets and clubs hot. However, with the empire split, the BMF crew began picking sides, which ultimately led to the operation's demise. Because of his flamboyant lifestyle and contagious enthusiasm, Meech was able to successfully enter the music industry in 2000 and start BMF Entertainment. Strength and Beauty, T.I. Jay-Z, F. Cent, Diddy, and Jay-Z were all hanging around Meech back in the day. And Meech's legendary flexes are still talked about today. He rolled 100 deep into the club, shutting down VIP sections, and pulled stunts like parking his 2 Maybachs next to Jay-Z's just to make a statement. BMF was no longer just a street empire. It was the hottest new movement in the rap industry at the time.
Jay-Z had I want to say, sky blue or champagne Maybach, and this is when they first came out. Meech drove up in 2 Maybachs, pulled the Maybachs up, and I don't know if he purposefully did it or whatever the case may be, but he pulled them in order to block in Jay's Maybach. You know, Meech was always friends with Diddy. Like that's his boy. You know what I mean? So that was always his boy. So I think for Meech it was sort of trying to assert his presence, so that he wanted to make it so that Jay had to speak to him in order to get the cars moved or whatever. But it wasn't no beef at all. It was just sort of that I'm rich too, and I'm street.
Big Meech took flexing to a whole new level by inviting 2 white tigers into the Magic City Club for his Wild Lee-themed birthday celebration, which is another of the most well-known BMF tales that is still circulating.
He caught it, okay, we're gonna do this party, we're gonna have the tigers and the lions and, you know what I'm saying, elephants and stuff, all, you know, like we never seen that type of stuff. Like you can say what you want to say, you know what I'm saying, about, but that type of stuff you only seen in movies, and you didn't even see that in movies. Yeah. Like, for real, not no black people really doing it like that, you know what I mean? So from here to Miami, Cancun, you know, renting out the whole jet. You know, it's stuff that people still ain't doing to this day.
Exactly.
While Ming Southwest's choice to operate independently aided BMF's growth, their increasing conflict ultimately contributed to its demise. He began to vent to family and friends about his distaste for Mech's extravagant lifestyle. But little did he know that the feds had him on wiretaps the entire time. Meanwhile, Meech continued to live like a king, throwing extravagant parties where he spent millions of dollars in a single night. However, T was unaware that some of the guests at his parties were undercover law enforcement, who were observing his every move and waiting for the right moment to bring him down. As a result, after 15 extended, after federal and local task groups, including the IRS, investigated for years, the FBI ultimately took action in 2005 after obtaining all the necessary evidence from more than 900 pages of WIRTP's informant statements, financial records, and round-the-clock monitoring. A series of planned raids resulted in the downing of Big Meech and Southwest on narcotics and racketeering allegations. The fall of one of the largest street empires in hip-hop history was marked by the arrest of T and Street Lewis and the seizure of Meech in Frisco, Texas. They weren't the only ones taken down. 150 BMF affiliates were also apprehended.
And a member of an organized crime family is now behind bars. U.S. Marshals tell me they arrested 37-year-old Ernest Dennis and 40-year-old Jonathan Manigault here outside a Buckhead hotel. Both men, they say, are members of the so-called Black Mafia family, or BMF.
Anyone tied to BMF typically has an extensive criminal history, so we consider them to be very violent.
Investigators say the organization BMF is heavily involved in drug trafficking and has been in Atlanta at least since 2004. At that time, federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden.
However, BMF was aware of the impending raid even before it happened, and when Southwest T was captured first, Big Meech had the opportunity to go to Mexico and avoid the federal authorities. But he refused to do so and instead traveled to Miami and then Frisco, where he was apprehended.
I was for self, I could have did that. I could have grabbed a bunch of millions and been on somewhere where you can't be extradited. But that wasn't what I was out for. I've already played the legal game to the fullest, so now I was trying to legitimize me and the whole family. I mean, I was 37 years old when I got picked up, so I was slowing down anyway, as far as I was getting kind of tired. But when you the face of the family, that's the one thing that I was starting to learn. Even at 37 years old, even though I'm feeling old because I've been doing it so long, like I was getting kind of tired. You know me, I'm popping pills, smoking weed, drinking, and partying, freaking, getting money, got whips going up and down the road. I'm doing everything to try to make this family successful and everything.
Additionally, when the federal government moved, they not only apprehended the Flanner brothers, but also their father, sister, and girlfriends, because their names appeared on the titles of houses and companies used to launder money. The DEA then used this information to coerce the brothers into cooperating by promising to release their family if Mech and T took full responsibility for the entire operation, which is precisely what they did. The DEA also heavily targeted the Black Mafia family while pursuing the Flanner brothers under the Continuing Criminal Enterprise Statute. Southwest T and Big Meech both entered guilty pleas and received 30-year sentences in federal prison. After serving 20 years in prison, Southwest was released in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic in order to serve the remainder of his sentence under house arrest. Big Meech, on the other hand, did not receive the same reprieve and was denied compassionate release due to health concerns during the pandemic. Finally, in October 2024, Big Meech was released from prison and ordered to serve out the remainder of his sentence at a halfway house.
Demetrius Flannery and his brother, Terry, ran one of the country's largest operations during the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. The pair had hundreds of employees, generated hundreds of millions of dollars, and even had a successful record label and magazine. But in 2006, the brothers were indicted in a federal RICO case originating out of Georgia.
BMF was the first group that was accused of being both a criminal organization and a record label.
Attorney Josh Schiffers says Demetrius, also known as Big Meech, is highly regarded because he never took a deal or snitched on his co-conspirators.
And he went down. And when he went down, he and his brother were sentenced to 30 years in prison.
In 2020, Terry Flannery was released, and just this week, Big Meech was released from prison. He will serve the remainder of his sentence at a halfway house in Miami.
Through interviews, fashion, and music, the Black Mafia family became a cultural legend during the Flanner brothers' incarceration. The story of Big Meech became a full-fledged pop culture phenomenon 5 years after the Furies were imprisoned. It began with Maura Shello's book BMF, The Rise and Fall of Big Meech and the Black Mafia Family, which was published in 2010. That same year, Rick Ross released his hit song, BMF Blowing Money Fast, which extolled my extravagant lifestyle, and by 2020, FY Send and Stars released a series about the creation of the empire based on the cultural impact of BMF. Lil Meech's Big Meech's Kid made his acting debut as his father in the series, which was so popular that 50 Cent and Stars followed it up with an 8-hour documentary series. In 2022, the BMF documentary made a lot of money, and in 2023, Feige said that the BNF cinematic universe was growing, with 3 spin-off series and a 3rd season anticipated. Nevertheless, everything fell apart due to a picture of Big Meech with Rick Ross soon after he was released from prison. The picture went viral, igniting a feud between Fiddy and Meech. Fiddy didn't hold back in accusing Meech of snitching and declaring the BNF show's cancellation. As for Meech, he is refusing to have a back and forth with Fiddy. But he did respond to the accusations of snitching and stated that he had never lied to anyone.
I wasn't going to address this because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will.
Fit, however, isn't backing down and recently stated that he has actual documentation proving that Meech cooperated with the federal government. However, some fans pointed out that these documents have been around for a while and that they don't specifically name Meech as an informant. This is where things get complicated, though, because even if Tammy Cowens cooperated with the federal government and had my sentence reduced, it doesn't necessarily mean Meech was involved if this was a genuine cooperation deal. Phyton is claiming that Meech knew about Tammy's deal and was providing her the information to give to the feds. But people who know Meech personally, like Gangsta Williams, say they never believe Meech. If he was unaware of it or didn't actively get involved, it's more like a technical loophole and not Meech being a full-on informant. However, what are your thoughts on all of this? Why do you think FYSN is so determined to promote this story about Meech snitching? If this documentation had been available years ago, why didn't Fiddy have trouble creating a TV show about a so-called snitch? Now that Meech has connected with Rick Ross, it's a problem. Is Fiddy being hypocritical here? Or do you understand his perspective? Make sure to leave a comment below and watch the next video.